Claret's most recent game, they fell to a 1-0 defeat against West Ham United at the London Stadium. And despite a lot of huff and puff, they couldn't blow the house down. This is the No Nay Never podcast. So welcome this evening and thanks for joining us on the No Nay Never podcast. This evening we've got regular panellists Tom Whitaker and George Poole joining us. Gentlemen, how are we this evening?
Cheers, Richard. I'm still basking in the glory of that intro. Really enjoyed it. Good work.
Oh, I've been stressed out for the last 5 minutes since I realised I was hosting about what to actually say for the intro, and I've come up with a little bit of a cheesy line, but there we go. Hopefully, Natalie will be proud. I'll stick with you then, Tom. So West Ham 1-0, a bit of a tame ending. What were your thoughts on the game in the immediate aftermath? Because there was a lot of kind of frustrated fans on Twitter, wasn't there?
Yeah, do you know what? I don't think it even took until the immediate aftermath. I think you could tell exactly how we were going to finish after 10 minutes as soon as Antonio scored. It had the feel to me of, I remember when we had that 19-game run where we didn't win under Cotterill, going back a bit, and it was like every game you'd rock up and you just hope we'd draw 0-0 because we never had a goal in us at all. As soon as the opposition got the first goal, you'd be like, right, that's it, that's the end of the game. And that's how it felt. You know, we a few away games this season. You know, Brighton, Villa. We've not really had a goal threat, but we've defended well. But in them games, you know, if we'd have made one slip and let a goal in, then we would have got beat 1-0 in them games as well. And it had that feel. You know, we've made a mistake for the goal, and then we've just, you know, I think most people when they saw the team sheet thought we're going to struggle to get goals in today, and so it proved. So yeah, I think I was pretty much gone through the 5 stages of you know, anger and grief and frustration and all that by the full time whistle, because I knew exactly where we were going after 10 minutes, to be fair.
Yeah, I think the game definitely had that feel, and you know, on the point of Steve Cotterill, he's not been too well this week. He's been in intensive care with COVID, so we wish him, you know, the best. Yeah, it definitely had that feel, and I said kind of in our group chat that as soon as that goal went in, game over. And for the rest of the game, you know, there was a lot of kind of possession, but you know, we didn't threaten at all, and I thought West Ham played a good game plan. To be fair, they let us have the ball, and we never really looked like creating anything. I know you, George, you seem to be a little bit more upbeat than the rest of us. I know I was full on ranting on Saturday night. So yeah, George, you seemed a little bit more balanced, and you probably didn't think it was as bad as a performance as maybe some others did.
Not gonna lie, Richard, I'm as down as you lot, to be honest.
Well, you've
I've
changed your
changed my
tune, George. You was
tune.
Mr. Positive on
Yeah,
Saturday.
I've changed my tune, to be honest. Upon reflection, like it was just boring. Like we just look so just ineffective this season at spells, and we just look like we've just been left behind by teams. And to be honest, it's probably like paired up with like the lack of any action on the transfer front. Just made me think, just like I just can't be bothered with it anymore. Like we go away to West Ham, and I was listening to last week's podcast earlier today, and Natalie was going on about, oh, you know, hopefully we can get on the front foot away at West Ham, show them like this is why we're a Premier League team. And then it just made me think back to the weekend and how torrid we were and like just not creating anything. And it's just I'm just not happy about it, unfortunately. It was a poor game, and the same as you, after Antonio scored at the start, it was difficult to see us getting back into it. And I think it made our weaknesses shine even brighter. Just the fact that West Ham's wingers like looked so threatening on the counter attack, because they weren't great, but you know they did pose a threat, and I think it just juxtaposed. Is that the word? With our lack of any creativity from the wings.
Yeah, he was kind of. I think you're spot on there, George. And it's maybe you've seen the light a little bit. I was kind of,
More lights in the
as I just
darkness.
mentioned, yeah, seen the dark. You know, I kind of just watched it, and it was yeah, like you said, it was painful to watch the lack of creativity, and you know, we just end up going you know, to our old hoofing it in the box, and you're just hoping for a little bit of a look, you know, and I don't know, like somebody to give a bad foul away or an own goal or something like that. You never think that we're actually going to score, and you know, we literally didn't have a chance at all on Saturday, and that was really disappointing. Um, At 2 o'clock, obviously, we're all eagerly anticipating the team, waiting to see who's up front. And quite predictably, Dyche obviously went with Wood and Barnes up front. Um, again, for me, I thought that was the wrong decision. Tom, when you seen the team sheet at 2 o'clock, was you kind of, right, okay, let's get behind the lads, or was you a bit like, oh, here we go again?
The thing is, like, I'm not quite as down on Wood and Barnes playing together as a lot of people are. I think people have kind of got it in their heads that it's never worked and it's always rubbish. Now, I'm not saying I would play them together at the minute because obviously both of them are out of form. Neither of them are contributing goals, but we have seen in the past they've played well. And I was at that game, the 3-0 away when they were setting each
Yeah,
other up
so
and
was I.
scoring
Yeah.
crackers. So I was sort of thinking, oh, maybe that maybe he's knocked some heads together in the week. I mean, like the MK Dons game, I thought he was quite came out quite strong against them, and I thought perhaps he's looking for a bit of a reaction here. I thought Barnes especially, and Wood to an extent, I thought they played all right against Man United, especially in the first half. I thought they put themselves about a bit. So I was thinking, well, maybe they both know sort of they're living on borrowed time here, and maybe it's going to be the game where it turns around for them because I'm not a massive admirer of West Ham. I think if I was a centre forward, I wouldn't mind playing against West Ham. But no, they were really disappointing. About as disappointing as I've seen them, to be fair. And the first sort of 5-10 minutes set the tone. And I did think when West Ham took the lead, we're in for a long afternoon here. It's not all their fault. I don't think we're creating an awful lot for them at the minute. Certainly not putting in the quality of crosses that we have in some other games where Woods miss sitters, like the West Brom game, he hit the bar. I don't think you could say really that we put a decent ball in or put some decent consistent crosses in until he took Wood and Barnes off. So in that, I'd feel for him a little bit in that respect. But at 2 o'clock, I wasn't devastated, but I will be sort of questioning it now if Wood and Barnes are starting again on Thursday because we can see it's not working. We can all see it's not working, surely.
Yeah, fully agree with those. And I'm just going to come to you for your opinion, George, because I think it is the main talking point at the moment is Dyche's kind of, whether you say it's stubbornness, or his kind of loyalty to stick with Wood and Barnes. And yeah, so I just want your thoughts on that too.
No, I agree. Like, I definitely want to see a change for this week. I think maybe you can like let Dyche off the hook a bit. I know people have been really critical of the weekend, but Rodriguez is coming back from an injury like not long ago. Vidra's coming back from an injury not long ago, and obviously Wood and Barnes have seen success against West Ham. But I thought we were crying out from like even from half time onwards that Vidra and J Rod should come on because we just needed someone to stretch the game. And I think obviously it ties in with going towards the end of the game, and we're obviously going to put more pressure on. But I thought when Vidra and Rodriguez were together in the second half, we did look far more threatening. I do think Wood and Barnes are harshly treated because they barely get any chances. I know Wood's missed a couple recently, but they do barely get any chances. But yeah, I'd say Rodriguez and Vidra maybe time to give them two a go together, or at least Rodriguez in, because I think Rodriguez is technically our best player, and he just has that ability to link the midfield and attack, which we have been missing that link, and set us up going forward. So from now on, I definitely want to see a change myself.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. I think we definitely need a change up there. I think whether Dyche sees Vidra as an impact sub off the bench, okay, but for me, Jay's got to start. I don't know if there's been fitness issues this season. Obviously, he's kind of missed the odd game here and there, but I think he's such a clever player. Our midfield and our attack is so far apart from each other. So even sometimes when Wood and Barnes are managed to hold the ball up, they've got nobody to pass to. So I think what Jay does really well, he gets in that pocket in between the lines, and he offers a bit of an outball for the midfielder. And don't forget, he's fantastic in the air. Some of the goals he's scored with his head have been outstanding. So fingers we'll move on to Liverpool obviously after we've analysed the West Ham game. But for me, yeah, Jay's got to come into the team. And I think maybe with your strikers, you've got to look at the opposition a little bit more. So obviously we're playing up against Ogbonna and especially Dawson, and they just headed everything away all day. And as George, as you alluded to there, once we kind of brought Vidra and Rodriguez on, we was able to stretch them a little bit more, and we did look more of a goal threat. But yeah, we have got to break them up, and I don't want to go into it anymore today because obviously it is, we could go on about it forever, but I think Wood just need to break out the team. I actually feel sorry for him at the moment. He's completely down on confidence, and I think a break would do him good. All right, so we've mentioned the goal that was conceded early, and once it went in, I know I had that sinking feeling. So, Tom, um, was it good play by West Ham, or could it have been a goal that we could have avoided?
It's just a bit of a miscommunication between the centre halves. It's one of them. I don't know if Tarkovsky gives me a shout or what, but like he's not going to win that header properly, and it's going to drop right on Tarkovsky's head if he leaves it. So I can only assume that he's not heard the shout or whatever, because it's not something you often see from them two. They're on sort of the opposite sides as well. Tarkovsky the other side of me, which is a bit weird. So I guess they've been turned around a little bit as well. Maybe that contributed to it. But I mean, the ball then wasn't anything special. It's just had that nick off me. I've seen a few people blaming Brady for the for not being
As
no
I
side,
did.
which I think is a bit like. I mean, surely it should be Peters there, and then I mean, you can criticise Brady for a few things, but I'm not sure knocking him for not marking some fella in the 6 yard box is. I don't think that was the biggest problem with that goal. Me personally, maybe you've got a different view.
No, I think just the way I seen it, obviously, because we got stretched, obviously because Bowen made that run. I think I can't. I think one of our centre halves initially had to go out wide, so Peters had to come in the middle, acting as the cover for that centre half. So, for me that's where I would like Brady to kind of bust the gut a little bit more to try and get goal side of Antonio to maybe mark him instead of being the other side of him. But maybe I'm being harsh there. It's just kind of just trying to analyse the goal a little bit. But I think it's just frustrating because they're the type of situations that we do normally gobble up. George, though, I thought Jared Bowen was excellent in the goal. He made a real forward run, and it shows if you've got that pace in the side, how he can stretch teams. And I know it's a player that I definitely would have liked to have signed last summer. Last January when West Ham did. Sorry, George. That one's for you to give a bit of analysis on the Bowen run and how we stretched our defence.
Sorry, it's just I'd cut out and then I was like, what is it? And then I came back in halfway through what you were saying. But no, I agree with you. I think I said it at the chat at the weekend that the likes of Bowen, is a player that if we'd have actually got our stuff together, we could have signed and he could have been a really good signing for us because at the weekend, obviously, I think you're hinting towards the Brady stuff. I actually agree with Rich. I think he could have. It's not the biggest issue, but I think he could have, put a bit more pressure on the man because Peters had actually been dragged wide by the Bowen ball. But as soon as that ball actually went through to Bowen at the weekend, I remember thinking to myself, "Oh, really good play. That I wish we had something like that." And I just had this gut feeling of, something's about to go wrong, and unfortunately, it did. And he's not the sort of player like Ben Rama. Okay, we're never going to sign the likes of him. 25 million, going to go to a big London club. But Bowen, going from was it Hull that he left? We were always linked with him.
Yeah,
We're
Hull,
always
yeah.
linked with him. We made a bid at the time. I'm pretty sure Sky Sports reported, and it's the kind of player that if we were competitive in the transfer market, we could have got and we could have progressed. But alas, we're not competitive. We've not progressed, and we've actually regressed. And that's why even the likes of West Ham are just looking a level above us right now. And it is really disheartening to see.
I think, yeah, you're spot on there. I think someone like Bowen, and I think a few years ago we were getting those players, the best talent out of the Championship, and it even seems we've gone out to the market for those now, and that's really what we're missing, that pace to run in behind and stretch teams, and that's the only thing I'll say when Barnes and Wood are playing, and it's not their game, so I'm not blaming them, but we just don't really have that ball over the top to like I said, to stretch teams to get in behind a little bit more. So yeah, we went in 1-0 down at half time. Obviously, lackluster performance, sloppy. We never got back into it. But Dyche, credit to him. We always say he's late with his substitutions. He made a change at half time. He brought McNeil on for Goodmanson, who's still, finding his way back to fitness. But obviously Dwight come on and he looked our main threat, didn't he, Tom? He looked really bright when he come on.
Yeah, he looked back to what we saw of him last season. Obviously, before today, we've not really seen the best of him this season. I don't think he's not had that many good games. I've been thinking for a while he looks like he needs a rest for a couple of games. Obviously, it was a bit of an enforced rest with a bit of an arc, but seems to have done him a bit of good. He was up and down that wing a bit more. It will benefit him if we can keep Goodmanson and Brady fit because it means he doesn't have to play every minute of every game. Yeah, and I think, like you said, the supply to the centre forward is better in the second half. he had a lot more of an impact on the game than Gudmundsson. So hopefully that will be a good sign. And obviously, if we get Taylor back down that side as well, we might see a bit more of an attacking threat coming from the wings.
Yeah, definitely. It was good to see Dwight back, and he really looked like he was up for the game. He'd come on, he wanted the ball. Unfortunately, we're just relying on him a little bit too much there. Maybe for that creativity. George, Tom mentioned there about Taylor coming back in. In my opinion, we need him fit as soon as possible. Do you think we'll start creating more chances when we've got that Dwight and Charlie left-hand side combination back fully fit?
Yeah, I think we're desperately missing it, to be honest. Peters, a really solid signing. He's a good backup, but he's no Charlie Taylor. Going forward, we missed, obviously at the weekend McNeil wasn't starting and Peters was starting instead of Taylor. We really miss that creativity on the left side, which is usually like the predominant wing which we create chances. And I think it was mentioned on the podcast last week. It's no coincidence that Wood's gone off the boil when McNeil's not been playing, and that partnership hasn't really been the same this season. We're really, really desperate to see Taylor and McNeil back, just making runs, attacking the defence. It puts the defence on the back foot more than anything, and we saw that in the second half when McNeil was brilliant. To be fair, it completely changed the flow of the game, and we actually looked a bit more threatening. We don't create much on the right hand side just because Brady and Goodmore are not the kind of players that attack a fullback. They're more like
Yeah.
putting deep crosses more like, and the right back's a position we need to look at in the summer.
It's good though, that in it, George, that our right wingers don't attack. That's always a
Exactly.
bonus, isn't it?
Yeah, that's always that's. I don't think that's their job really, but
Yeah.
we could do with a bit more creativity, and the sooner Taylor's back, the better.
So George, I'll stick with you because you did look over it briefly, and then Jay and Vidra were introduced in the second half. I both thought they did a good job. There was one run that Vidra did where he took the ball lovely and got into the box. Unfortunately, couldn't get a shot off. Do you think those two made a difference, and have they done enough for both of them to stake a claim to start together in the coming weeks?
To be honest, I might have said before that Rodriguez and Vidra both changed the game, but Vidra for me, like I put it in our chat, was pretty invisible throughout the second half for me. He got his chance of coming on in like early in the game, the 55th minute or so, and apart from that, I sent the message to the chat and I said, look, Vidra's not done anything, and as soon as I sent it, that minute he went into the box, and beat a couple of players, but that's literally the only thing he did all half. So for me, he's not really stated a claim to start there. But Rodriguez, for sure, like you said before, he drops in between the line between attack and midfield, and he links them up. He pushes us forward. He's got that bit about him to sort of manoeuvre around a man, and he's really good in the air. So I think Rodriguez is, he's nailed on. He has to start at the weekend, and maybe it is time to take Chris Wood out the action for a game or two. Maybe Rodriguez and Barnes start at the weekend.
Yeah, so I do agree with you there on Vidra. I think he did have an impact. I think he stretched him. He didn't maybe get enough ball that he would like. I think obviously maybe the reason Dyche isn't keen on him, I just don't think he suits our style of play. So kind of the final question for both of you before we move on for the game. So George, you'd like to see Barnes and Jay start then on Thursday evening against Liverpool.
Yeah, because also I think with against Liverpool, we're going to have a bit of a physical battle up there. Barnes maybe to go at the centre backs, and if indeed Henderson and Fabinho are the centre halves like they were at the weekend, we could really expose that maybe. Even though the top players, but they are midfielders at the end of the day playing centre back. So Barnes and J-Rod for me.
Yeah, same question for you, Tom.
For me, I think I'd go Vidra and Rodriguez because I think the way that West Brom got a result against them at Anfield was the counter attack, and as I said already, you're not going to get that from Wood and Barnes. I feel like if we can sit deep against Liverpool and soak up a lot of pressure the way they're playing, they're not got a lot of goals in at the minute. And if we've got a better out ball, if we've got a ball over the top for Vidra or Rodriguez to run to, especially Vidra, I think that's about as close as we'll get to a bit of pace up front. And I think that's what Henderson and Fabinho would. I think they'd rather play against Wood and Barnes than in Vidra, to be honest.
And I think Matip could be fit for Thursday's game. I read too. So obviously he's not blessed with pace, is he, Tom? So it might be a good shout there at having Vidra and Jay
Yeah,
playing.
that's what I prefer. Just something a bit different as well. Just try something else, because it's not as if we're going to score less, is it?
No, that's the one thing. It's not like we're losing anything. I think if I was going to go for a strike force, I'd agree with Tom on that one, and I'd personally go for Jay and Vidra. But I'd actually go and play 5 in midfield against Liverpool. I know with Jay up front. I know it's maybe not worked in the past, but I'd quite actually like to see McNeil in that number 10 role, and then still give Goodmanson and Brady the opportunity out wide, because we're going to have to do a lot of defending as well. And I think just try something different, because I think that's what it needs.
So just to
Yeah, that's it.
clarify, Rich,
Sorry, George.
just to clarify, you mean you want to go 5 in midfield, but you don't want to play Stevens?
Oh, don't even mention his name. Now I'm hoxing. It's like mentioning Lord Voldemort to Harry Potter, mentioning Stevens to me. No, he's definitely not starting. I wouldn't even mind maybe Cork having a starter, maybe keeping McNeil on the left and Brady on the other side. But yeah, I think that's what I go 4-5-1, and maybe try and keep possession a little bit more. Because I think eventually Liverpool will break us down. We might have a scenario against United. But yeah, obviously that covers the West Ham game. Really disappointing performance. We just didn't really look ourselves, and sometimes I can kind of what's the word I'm looking for? I can kind of understand a lack of quality and a lack of creativity at times, because that's what we are. That's our team. As George said, we can't go and spend 20 odd million on a Ben Rama. But I thought, especially first half, our attitude and our urgency just wasn't there, and it was a polar opposite performance, I thought, to United. So hopefully it's just a little blip, and we can get back on track. So moving on to Liverpool, obviously Anfield on Thursday, 8 o'clock kickoff. Really tough game. It may be a good time for us to play them. Obviously they're not in great form. They've not scored for the last 3 Premier League home games. So Tom, have we got any chance at all? Obviously we got an amazing draw last season, the only side to take a point from Anfield. So have we got any chance?
It's tough, isn't it? Because Liverpool aren't playing well at the moment. The front three aren't scoring. Like we're saying, they're playing midfielders at centre half. I do think they're keeping quite solid, but I wonder if maybe there's a bit of a feeling like they've got to protect them two centre halves playing at midfielders playing at centre half a bit, and that's why they're not going full throttle like they normally do. Or maybe they're missing a bit of energy from Henderson not being in the middle and Fabinho not being in the middle. I think it's a bit of a shame for us Thiago's back, because I think he'll make a big difference in this game. But if you look at how Liverpool played against West Brom and Newcastle, they were two teams who just sat there, sat back, defended, said if you can break us down, good luck, do it, and they struggled against both of them. And we're the exact same kind of team, so I really can't see us going there and getting absolutely pummeled. I don't think we'll ship 3-4. The difficulty is going to be, obviously, it's going to be hard for us to get a goal. We're playing at the minute, and it's not really the place you want to go if you want to start turning them kind of fortunes around. And the problem for me is, like, obviously last season we had that Robertson scored that header. It was, what was it, 20, 25 minutes they scored. I think if that happens to us this time, then it's going to be similar to the West Ham game. It's going to be a procession. So I think we need to either keep it tight as long as we can, get to half time at 0-0 and then reassess, or we're going to have to get the first goal, and both of them are a big ask. So it's a good time to play them as much as you can get a good time to play at Liverpool, but they'll be thinking the same about us. It's a good time to play Burnley, so it's going to be difficult. And if we get anything there, we'll have done well.
Yeah, I agree there, Tom. I think it's imperative that we keep it tight early on. We really can't afford to concede an early goal, because I think that'll just kill us, and their confidence will be higher then, and they can play with a little bit more freedom, and really hurt us. Just the same kind of question for you, George. Do you think we've got any chance, or do you think it's going to be a difficult evening?
I think it's going to be a difficult evening, to be honest, just by nature of it being Liverpool. I remember I used to think about going to City like there's just an inevitability about it, and I never used to think that about Liverpool until like maybe the last season or so. So now I just see Liverpool as a bit of a write-off, even though we did get that brilliant draw there. So I think it's going to be difficult, and it'll be difficult as like a fan base as well, because I think a lot of people will maybe overreact and see it, as another game gone by, and we're going to be closer to the bottom 3. So it'll be interesting to see over the next week or so. I know we're going to be going to talk about it, like the transfer front, because I think people are starting to get a bit restless about our position.
Yeah. Well, that's going to be my next question. So, obviously Tom thinks we've got a slight chance. George, no chance. I'm in between Tom and George if there's such a thing. Obviously, it's very unlikely that we'll go and get something, but if we can keep it tight and frustrate them, you never know. And hopefully, we can nick a goal, and it'd be really good to kind of, see, just see, a bit of change to the team, whether that's a change of formation like I suggested, or Jay and Vidra up front like Tom did, like Tom said. Hopefully Taylor's back in. I think that'll give us a really big boost. I think if Taylor's playing, and it gives us that energy and that thrust to get up the pitch, especially against Alexander Arnold, who's obviously not the best defensively, it does give us a much better chance. Like I said, it's going to be a very, very difficult game, and hopefully a few results go our way this week as well. So, Tom, I always mention this, and you always laugh at me. So obviously we seem like we was kind of like really comfortable. We've had a couple of bad results. We're still 4 points above the relegation zone. West Brom got a win at the weekend. Brighton got a victory too, and then Fulham lost. But in my opinion, I think Fulham are really, really improving. Are you still really confident about us staying up? Or are you kind of a little bit more nervous now? We've had a couple of defeats and other teams kind of won, and Fulham's fastly improving.
You love Fulham, don't you? I'm surprised you're not doing a Fulham podcast.
Do you know? I think they're good. Yeah. Well, do you know what? They were absolutely awful at the start of the season, and for some reason, I don't know why, I've like watched the last 4 games. I've watched every minute of it, and I just think they've got something about them, and that's the only little thing I've got in the back of my head that I'm slightly worried about. Is that I had kind of like Fulham nailed down to go down, and they're just playing well. They've got good players. Loftus Cheek, obviously, Anguissa. Lookman, who I think somebody who had that type of player I'd love at Burnley. And they've kind of sorted the defence out, haven't they? So yeah, that's it really. Listen, they're not City, are they? But they're definitely a contender to stay up now.
I think what gives me a bit of hope. So you mentioned like West Brom and Brighton both won at the weekend. I think for Brighton that was the first win in 10. I think the third win of the season. For West Brom, that was the first win since I don't know. God, we're a lad. I think they've won 2 games this season.
They've just lost, haven't they?
Yeah, they beat Sheffield
As
United.
we're
That
in it.
doesn't even count, does it really? So that's the first win for ages. And Fulham, you mentioned they're playing well. They're playing well. I don't think they've won this year, have they? I don't know the last time they won. They made a draw against everyone for a while. They made a 0-0 at home to Brighton.
Yeah, that's true.
They drew with Liverpool, but they're not winning games either. I think they've only won 2 all season. The thing, and obviously we've got beaten the last couple. Before that, I think we won 2 or 3. We beat Wolves, beat Sheffield United. I think we've got a tough run of games coming up, and I think we're probably going to get nearer to the bottom 3 before we pull away from it, because I don't think that many of our upcoming fixtures look that easy, depending on when the Fulham game gets rearranged. But for me, we've got more nous than these teams. We've got more about us. We're much more equipped to just battle out a 1-0 when the chips are down. That Palace game that we won 1-0, that was a classic kind of Burnley win when the back's against the wall. I can't see Fulham beating a team 1-0 like that. I can't see them scoring after 20 minutes and then sitting on it. I know you say the defence has improved, and obviously, like you say, from the start of the season, it couldn't really get any worse, but I think there's still question marks there. The keeper's good, but I'm not a massive fan of the back four, to be honest. And then, Brighton. I mean, Brighton are it blows my mind, the way people talk about Brighton. There never seems to be any pressure on Potter because they play this kind of fancy sideways football. They don't win games. They don't score goals. And obviously, 1-0 against Leeds, it's not a bad result, but there's not a lot to fear there for me. I'd be surprised if they finished above us. And then the other consideration, sorry to interrupt, I was just going to say about Newcastle as well. The way they're slumping, they're going to be dragged into it sooner rather than later, I think, as well. So I would say we've got more than enough to finish above at least 2 of these teams.
Yeah, so Brighton, I'll just cover that. Yeah, it's kind of this. Well, it's all your kind of Twitter football, isn't it now? Where people just love teams that pass side to side and don't really do much, and everyone's got this infatuation with this Graham Potter, maybe because he's been to Sweden and coached over there. But yeah, I'm not convinced with Brighton. You kind of touched on me next point I was going to raise with George, because I didn't mention Newcastle in that list of teams, but I nearly half swore there. But blimey, they look bad, don't they, George? I watched them last night, and against Sheffield United, they were terrible.
Yeah, it will be really interesting to see whether they get dragged into it, because
they are in it.
Well, yeah, possibly. Well, apparently they were awful last night, as you say. I sort of avoided the game, but it will be interesting if they are dragged into it, because Bruce, I think he's done like an okay job since he got there. But at the same time, they have spent quite a lot of money. Like, he has been backed. I don't buy into this Newcastle fan rubbish about Mike Ashley. Like, yeah, he's not the greatest guy in the world, but over the past few seasons, he has put money into it. You know, they've signed Almiron, they've signed Joe Linton. This summer they signed Callum
Wilson, yeah.
Wilson. Yeah, so to me, they're probably actually underperforming. But as Tom said in our chat last night, it's usually only Newcastle managers are sacked when they're really looking like dead on cert for relegation. So, if Bruce can last a bit longer, if the natives can get restless and they keep on sinking, then it could be an interesting one to keep an eye on. I think Brighton, I think they're just similar to us, where they always have sort of a 1-0 win in them every so often, like they did against Leeds. So I think they'll be fine. But obviously, we're going to be in a battle all season, unless we can really pull a rabbit out the hat this transfer window, which it just doesn't look like happening.
Yeah, so we'll move on to that. Yeah, transfer window. It's the 19th of January. I presume it'll be the 20th of January when producer Matt gets this podcast out. And nothing, absolutely nothing. Diddly squat, hardly any rumours. There's been a couple of noises about Jason Knight in the last day or so. That Derby are looking to put him up for sale due to their financial crisis. And the terminology I seen from a tweet was Burnley are on hot alert, whatever that
He's
means.
captain tonight.
Well,
He's captaining.
well, I think Rooney's done that obviously to maybe try and emphasise to the current board how important he is, and maybe to say to the player, listen, you can't go, you're really important. So, George, obviously, Alan Pace has come in, he's said a lot of amazing stuff, which we've all been wild with. Are you getting a little bit impatient at the moment, or are you still kind of cool and realising January is a tough window?
Yeah, I'm getting restless just because, and I fully understand that maybe he's just doing this just for media spin. But Dyche always says in the press conferences, essentially to that, we've done nothing. Like, we've got a couple of hands in the fire. Like, basically, we're just nothing's happening, and it's just talk like that just makes me think, oh, why not? We've got new owners coming in. It's the 19th of January now. Why not even speculate and put bids in for players? Like, just what's the issue with doing that? There's the likes of this Jason Knight. Obviously, it's up to them whether they want him. But if they do want him, why have they not bidded already for it? Bid already for him? Why are we not actually, getting some action done? It's the same old leave it to the last minute. Fans don't really hear about anything happening. So I'm getting restless because we do need a few signings, and it's all well and good Pace coming in and talking a good talk and complaining to Amazon about the coverage of him. But at the end of the day, the only reason we needed a change of ownership was to do better in transfer windows. So it's about, we need to deliver on that, and starting with January.
Yeah, I agree. I think to me that was the main reason we did need a takeover, was to get transfers and to get players who can give Dyche, a squad, to improve. Where, you mentioned it earlier, George. We're getting left behind by teams around us, and this season has really shown the culmination of a few poor transfer windows. Yeah, Tom, I see you've got your hand raised. Obviously, I was going to come to you anyway, but you go on, pal, make your point.
Nice one. Just wanted to make sure he was, because I think we're being a bit harsh. I mean, you lot were all loving Pace 3 weeks ago when he come in and gave one press conference.
Yeah, don't worry, Tom. I was going to come to you
Yeah,
as
good
well.
man. Cheers, Rick. I
Yeah.
know you look after me. Yeah. So the thing for me is two things really from the points that George mentioned there. So one, mentioned obviously there's not a lot happening in the papers. We don't, if they are making bids, we're not hearing about them. That's the way we've been operating for years, under Garlick and it makes you wonder how much of it comes from the manager. I know obviously Garlick's still on the board and he's still advising, so how much of that is down to him. But to me, the Dyche is the kind of person who doesn't want this stuff getting in the papers. We struggle as it is to match other clubs financially. We don't want our business being done in public because it's the kind of thing that drives bidding war. It's the kind of thing that drives prices up. So to me, it doesn't worry me that I'm not seeing a rumour about being linked with X, Y, Z, because a lot of the rumours are nonsense. And for me, the club's always doing its business on the down low, and that's the way I prefer it to be. So to not see rumours and to not see us being linked with anybody, I'm not too fussed about that. The other thing you've got to remember is they've only bought the club about 2 days before the window's open. It's not as if they can just suddenly drop in, and obviously Dyche was saying and Pace was saying, they haven't really had a chance to communicate with him before the takeover's gone through. you can't set up all these deals in the space of a week, 2 weeks, with everybody's backing. The manager is going to have his own thoughts on who they want to bid for. What's his face? Mike Rigg, he's going to have his own opinions. How much of an influence that he has on it, I don't know. And obviously, the Americans will have a different way of thinking about it and a different way of doing it than Garlic did as well, I'm sure. So if we can't expect that he's just gonna walk in on January the 1st with £100 million and start chucking it about at players. So I think for me, the timing of the takeover was always going to make it a slightly more difficult window than it had to be necessarily, because it's come so close to the start of the window. Now, in a couple of weeks' time, when it's shut and we're sitting and looking at a squad, will I be disappointed if we haven't got one or two through the door, we haven't got one or two over the line? Yeah, I will, because they'll, I'm sure Dyche will have had his thoughts, and Rigg will, because there's people who are in the club before the start of the window. We know historically a lot of our business is done towards the close of the window as well, because we're waiting for the teams to make bids and things like that. So yeah, I'll be disappointed if we haven't got a couple over the line before February the 1st, definitely, because we do need it, and we all know we need it. But I'm not panicking just yet, and I'm not turning on pace as quickly as you like.
Go on, George, mate, 'cause I know you're bursting to go too.
No, I think there was just my restlessness is probably actually fueled by just like a worry about the new ownership in the sense that when the stuff came out a week ago or so about the debt stuff and where the money's coming from, and the fact that we basically bought ourselves in some way with like money that was already in the club, and the noises coming out with that, like the money that we're going to spend in January is actually going to come from the 40 million that was already in the club. So it just makes me think, well, why, if we're getting new owners in, where is their money? Like, show us your money. So I think I'm just a bit restless over whether these new owners actually have the desire or maybe the actual ability to put money into the club if we're spending the money that was already there in the summer. So, I think I'm just a bit worried that maybe we're not going to actually progress in the transfer market as much as we hope.
And I think that's my kind of thought as well. I actually thought we would have had a player in by now. I think a couple of comments that stood out to me when Pace did his interviews. One was that the manager's not going to be frustrated. So obviously it'll be interesting if we'll judge it at the end of the window what Tom said, and I think that's absolutely bang on. And but yeah, it'd be interesting to see what Dyche says on that. And then the second comment was, we've not got an open checkbook, but we're going to be kind of like more active. We're going to be more on the front foot rather than leaving it to the last minute. But I think when the frustration comes at the moment, it seems like it's the same old Burnley rather than the kind of on the front foot. But like Tom was saying, in a way, probably for us to sign players that are targets, we don't want the news coming out in the media, because it can obviously trigger a bidding war, which isn't good for us, and outbid us. I think what you said there, George, and I think what has become apparent about the money is that ALK haven't got a lot of money compared to obviously other owners in the Premier League. But I think they're obviously looking to generate money through commercial deals, maybe from player sales, maybe from the academy, etc. Which is, and this is why Pace has said it's always going to be a long-term vision. But I do think what Pace does need to do, he needs to make at least one signing in this transfer window, whether it's a Jason Knight or a player like that, for example, which actually gets players off the seat, because first impressions are key. And if we do go all the way through January and we don't sign anybody, or we just end up signing somebody on the last day, like a Peter Crouch type of signing, I think some fans will turn very, very quickly, even though that would be unfair. But I think it is crucial that he does make, for me, at least two signings. We all know what positions we need. It's been made perfectly clear. I don't need to ask Tom and George what players we need, because it's obvious. So hopefully, 2 weeks' time when we're doing this podcast, once January's closed, hopefully we do have a good couple of quality players over the door to really help Dyche for the rest of the season. Go on again, George. I feel like you're slapping me in the face, mate. This hand keeps popping on and off. So for those who don't, obviously those who don't know, when George and Tom want to raise a point, they put their hand up, And George's hand has just been flashing during my own monologue there. So go on, mate. I know you're going to be bursting. Going to be like the Oompa Loompas soon, just ready to. No, it's not. Yeah. Anyway, go on, pal.
Yeah, I'm a bit like the purple girl off
That's
Charlie
it. Yeah, the
Brooker.
purple girl when she
Yeah.
pops. Yeah.
What I was going to say is when you just mentioned like if say it came to the end of the month and we made a deadline signing of Alla, Peter Crouch, it wouldn't be unfair to judge. Well, I actually think maybe it is fair to judge them on that because when Pace came in, he made a big speech in that first press conference with all the local reporters. He said the first aim of the first ambition and the first job we've got to do is to have a successful January transfer window and then make sure we stay up. So I just think we need to hold them to account to those words. And if it obviously, like Tom says, we're judging them way too early here. But if it does come to the end of the transfer window and they've made maybe one mediocre signing, maybe they might make a few good signings. But if that comes, I think you've got to have a bit of a judgment on that because they've come in and stated their ambitions, and you've got to be held to account to those ambitions.
No, I agree. Fully agree. And I think if we don't sign anybody over the line or we just sign a mediocre player, I can see Alan Pace being off Twitter on the 2nd of February, to be honest with you. So, yeah, I don't think it'll last there too long if we don't have a good January transfer window. All right, so the second game in the week is obviously Fulham in the FA Cup. Obviously, Robbie Kopak won't be watching that because he hates the FA Cup. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. It's always nice to have a little bit of a break out of the league. I'm not going to review that in too much detail. But Tom, you're looking forward to the Fulham game at the weekend, or kind of knowing we've got a big game coming up against Aston Villa at home. Would you rest even more players?
Yeah, I think both teams are going to be resting if you aren't. They'd be daft not to because there's bigger fish to fry at the end of the day. I think that's kind of why it'll be fun in a way because it'll be a bit unpredictable. I feel like we're not going to be going gung ho. Fulham aren't going to be going gung ho. And with our record in cups, normally it means we've got a bit of a chance. I think that's the only reason we beat Sheffield United in the League Cup at the start of the season was because neither of us really cared if we won or not. I think it'll be similar. So it'll be interesting to see some of the fringe players going at each other. What it might do as well, perhaps, maybe I'm being a bit, I'm reaching a little bit with this, but maybe lay down a bit of a psychological marker. If we can go there and stick a couple past them and beat them quite handily, perhaps that will give us a bit of a psychological edge in the relegation battle. Maybe not. Like I said, I don't think anyone's really going to care. But yeah, it'll be nice because we know we've got a winnable tie if we do get through. And I suppose Fulham know that as well. So yeah, I think we'll probably see similar to what we saw against MK. As many players as he can get away with resting, he will do. But I think that'll make it maybe a little bit more interesting than it otherwise would have been.
Yeah, I think I fully agree there. I think obviously knowing who the possible opponents in the fifth round draw gives it a little bit of spice. George, obviously something that surprised me. I seen me and Taki started against MK Dons, maybe due to injuries, but would you like to see those two rested because an injury to one of those two and bloody hell, we've got Long back in.
Yeah, you're right. If an injury to him would screw us a bit, but at the end of the day, centre backs. I don't want to tempt fate. I'm touching the wooden wall here. Like tempting fate. Centre backs don't really get injured, so I'd back them to get through a cup game just
Unless it's
fine.
his tour.
Yeah. But I actually, I'm looking forward to it in a sense that I think the scheduling sort of lines up quite nicely in that maybe it'll be Cork's first game starting, so he'll want to prove himself and get back into the first team, so he'll have something to prove. If Wood and Bard start again against Liverpool, then maybe J Rod and Vidra will play against Fulham, and they'll obviously want to prove something, and it might make of a more nice attacking style to watch for us rather than watching Wood and Barnes. So, and maybe with Taylor coming back from injury, he might want to get games under his belt and Taylor will play. So
Yeah,
I just think with the timing, we might have like a nice little team there. But, on the psychological thing, I can really see if we do lose, it'd be like, bloody hell, look at Fulham, relegation rival. And okay, a bit of changed teams, but it won't be a good sign. So hopefully we can win because Bournemouth is a winnable tie. And, we're not doing so well in the league at the moment. If we just get a few wins under our belt in the cup, it might like just lift the mood a bit. Like Sheffield United got a win in the cup and then did all right in the league. It might just lift the spirits a bit.
yeah. No, I think it's good points. Yeah, I definitely want us to go there with a decent side out, and obviously hopefully put up a good performance. what I'd like to see after the Fulham fiasco with the COVID and after Mitrovic was caught out partying, I think they should move the game to Turf Moor, and then it's a double header for League and Cup. And then whoever kind of wins that game at Turf Moor, Burnley hopefully get the 3 points and get through to the third round. So I don't think that would be a bad suggestion. So yeah, exciting week ahead for the Clarets. Hopefully we see some goals scored. For once it'd be nice, and wouldn't it be great to kind of go away to Liverpool and get a result, and who knows, even to dream and kind of ruin Liverpool's long-standing unbeaten run at Anfield. So yeah, fingers crossed. Hopefully we'll see a few changes. Hopefully we'll have Taylor back, and like I said, it'd be nice to get through against Fulham and have a little bit of a cup run. So thank you very much tonight to our panelists, George and Tom. Again, really great insight into the analysis of the West Ham game, and both really good points about transfers and kind of what the hopes are for the rest of the January transfer window and beyond. And again, obviously, of course, thanks to the band Joyce for the backing music, which is so familiar with the No Nay Never podcast. But most of all, thank you to our loyal listeners who tune in every week. My name's Richard Steele, and this has been the No Nay Never podcast.